Hey, what's going on YouTube? It's the Mouse Lady here, and welcome to another episode of Small Handed Edition, where I'm going to be going over my experiences and thoughts on the highly anticipated Hati S wireless. So with all of that being said, let's talk mice. Ever since the wired Hati S became more and more popular, a lot of people wanted a wireless version of it, and now that it's finally here and in my hands, what were my overall thoughts of it? Of course, that's what I'll be talking about in today's video, as well as answering my most asked question about this mouse. Is the quality control on your copy good? Timestamps will be down in the description if that's all you wanted to know about my personal copy. About a month ago, I reviewed 3 different variations of the wired Hati S. So besides this mouse being wireless, a lot of the stuff I said in that video will still apply here as well, so some of what I will be saying may not be new information to you if you watched that video. So with all of that aside, let's get into specs and features first. At the time of recording this video, this mouse is pretty much impossible to get unless you were one of the lucky ones that got picked by G-Wolves to get sent a free copy, or you bought one off of Mouse Market. It was on pre-order on X-Ray Pad about a month ago now, and hasn't been restocked since, selling out. X-Ray Pad has it listed for $129 as regular price, but has a sale price of $109 currently. There's been no news on when a restock will happen, but I'd assume it will be after everybody gets their free copies first. On the X-Ray Pad page, they claim the mouse weighs 58 grams, give or take about 3 grams depending. On my scale with 2 of the side grips on, it came out to about 61 grams. For reference, the wired version is listed at 49 grams in case you wanted to compare the weight between the two. Dimensions are of course exactly the same at 113 millimeters long, 61 millimeters at the rear, and a height of 40 millimeters at its tallest point. One thing about this mouse that people were concerned about was the sensor, which is a 3335 dB, which according to the X-Ray Pad page is just an optimized version of the 3335, but I didn't have a single issue with it in the 3 weeks that I've been testing and using this mouse. The switches in the mouse are the Kale 8.0 switches, which are implemented very nicely and is probably my favorite thing about this mouse. Sound tests later in the video, of course. Then I guess one of the most obvious changes compared to the wired Stardust edition, the scroll wheel, DPI button, and side buttons are all black now, instead of the baby blue color on the wired variant, which I must say I really like. You also still get pure virgin PTFE feet with an extra set in the box, and the same incredible unboxing experience you get with G-Wolves mice, except no extra switches were included with my copy this time, just like we see on the wired variants. It comes with a very interesting charging cable, where the end of it can hold its shape to prevent cable drag, but I haven't gotten to use it yet since I haven't had to charge the mouse once yet in the 3 weeks that I've been using it, and my battery is still at 50%, which is pretty crazy. You can keep track of your battery life in the software, which I will link down below, where you can also tweak other things about the mouse, like your DPI and polling rate, etc. It also comes with this wireless receiver that is pretty much a meme at this point, and I will talk more about this later in the video. The mouse is also still using micro USB, just like on the wired variant, where it had the detachable micro USB cable if you care about that sort of thing. So with specs and changes out of the way, I'll quickly go over how the mouse fit my hands and grip style before getting into my overall experiences with the mouse. So in case you missed my wired Hati S review I made last month, I'll quickly go over the small-handed edition portion of this review. In case you're new to my channel, my hands are 15 by 9 centimeters, and I usually do a claw or a relaxed claw grip depending on the size or shape of the mouse. This mouse being 113 millimeters long, I of course have zero issues doing any grip style on it, and I can even palm grip it if I wanted to, even though this mouse isn't great for palm grip obviously. I also have very sweaty hands, so the included grips that come with this mouse are a must for me for the sides to keep my grip in place. I usually do a regular claw grip on this mouse and have perfect access to both side buttons, the scroll wheel and have my fingers placed on a nice spot on mouse 1 and 2. It's comfortable for me to also relax claw this mouse when I fully extend my ring and pinky finger, if you like to grip your mouse that way. And I can also curl them, which is what I normally do when gripping this mouse. I actually find that I perform the best with the Hati S in general out of all the mice in my collection, which is why it is actually in my main mouse rotation even to this day. I have no issues with fingertip gripping this mouse either, and find the flare on the rear of the mouse really nice to place my thumb if I do decide to fingertip grip it. So, if you have hands as small as mine, you won't have any issues with the size of this mouse, and is a great option for claw or fingertip grip regardless of your hand size. So with this out of the way, let's get on to my experience while using this mouse. So as I mentioned earlier, a lot of the things I say and cover in this video I may have already said in my wired Hati S review that I did last month, but with the wireless version there are some things that I wanted to mention that I didn't like on my copy, and maybe some things that would bother other people as well. I honestly have more positive things to say about this mouse than negative, which is honestly a first since I nitpick quite a bit in my reviews. I kept seeing people say on Twitter how good the build quality was on their retail Hati S wireless copies, so I was very disappointed when I got mine to see that the build quality out of the box was just as bad as my wired copies. I'm able to make the mouse creak when squeezing the sides, but I can't actuate the side buttons. The major issue for me though was the palm rest. If I put even just a little bit of pressure on the back of it, it almost felt like it was bending inward or about to cave in, and this became very distracting in-game since I pushed down on my mouse and mouse pad for extra stopping power. I will say though that it somehow seemed to not be as noticeable over time, so I either got used to it or the problem just isn't as bad anymore. When I first got the mouse, when I'd go to grip it very lightly, it would begin making very loud creaking sounds, but that has seemed to happen a lot less frequently now, which is good, I guess. At the price point of $129 or $109, however much it'll be, I expected better build quality on my copy. Mouse 1 and 2 have some side play, but I didn't notice it in-game whatsoever. They also have seemed to develop more pre-travel within the 3 weeks I've been daily driving this mouse, but have very minimal post-travel on my copy. Side buttons still have the same issue on my wireless copy that were present on all 3 of my wired copies, where the back side button felt looser and slightly mushy compared to the front side button, but I will say that it isn't as bad on my wired copies. Minimal pre-travel and some post-travel on both of my side buttons, with the back side button having slightly more of both. A lot of people have a lot of things to say about the included wireless receiver, but it didn't bother me for the reasons that it bothered other people. It may look ridiculous, but the thing that I wish G-Wolves would have done instead was of course including a USB extender cable to maybe put a dongle in like other companies do, but instead you just have to have the receiver in one USB slot and your charging cable in another, making you use 2 USB slots instead of one, which I know will definitely bother some people. I absolutely had to have the antenna on, otherwise I'd get a lot of jittery movements and slightly delayed movements in-game as well. I also found the mouse pretty uncomfortable to use without the side grips on due to the size of the holes on the sides, but again, this will be a preference thing, so I wanted to bring this up just in case it would bother others. Besides those major things though, I don't have a lot of other negative things to say about it, so let's jump into what I did like before closing out this review. So it's no secret how good of a shape this mouse is for claw and fingertip grip, and the wired version was my main mouse for quite a while. Even with the build quality issues on my copy, getting the wireless version has made the mouse make its way back into my main mouse rotation with the Superlight and the Zegan NP01. This is one of my favorite shapes that I've tried for my small hands, and I perform insanely well with it in-game on top of all that. It's often called a mini G Pro wireless due to its shape, and I find that kind of ironic because the Superlight has an insane battery life, but I also found the battery life on this mouse pretty crazy too. When I got the mouse, it was at 90% battery, and I haven't charged it at all, and it's still at 50%, and I've used this mouse non-stop for 3 weeks, never even turning it off when shutting my PC down. I did disable the LED indicator in the software though. figured I'd mention that. There's things I mentioned in my wired Hati S review that still carry over to this review, like the unboxing experience, which is still unmatched by any other company out there. You don't get the extra set of switches like you do with the wired copy, but you still get the collector's tin and all the other goodies you got before. The included grips that come with the mouse are still my favorite grips that come with any mouse, and I even prefer them over almost all aftermarket grips, with just BTL grips being just as good as them, but it will of course just be preference at the end of the day. The stock feet are still very good in my opinion, and I performed very consistently with them on all the pads I tested them on, and you do get another set of them in the box, which is of course a plus. On my copy, they never felt scratchy and didn't seem to have a noticeable break-in period that I could personally tell. The thing that made me fall in love with this mouse again though, besides the shape, was the clicks, which are the Kale 8.0 switches, just like they used on the Red Classic Edition Hati S. Here's a quick sound test for you guys. Not only do they sound good, but they feel very satisfying as well. They're very tactile, very snappy, easy to spam, and are tensioned very well, in my opinion. The side buttons, even though they're not perfect, I enjoyed as well, especially the front side button. I also really enjoyed the scroll wheel on the wired and wireless Hati S. On Bearded Bob's website, it says it uses a Kale black encoder and a Huano green dot for the scroll press, but that was on the wired Hati S, so it may be different on the wireless, so take that with a grain of salt. I'm one of the weird ones who love Zowie scroll wheels, so the more tactile and tighter they are, the better, and this wasn't perfect for me, but it was still very nice to use. I used my scroll wheel in-game to change weapons, and I had zero issues over scrolling, and the scroll press wasn't too firm either, to where it became fatiguing to press down. It has pretty defined steps and has 4 small raised dots on each step, which I personally like. This is all preference, so if a tighter scroll wheel isn't something you like, you probably won't like the scroll wheel on this mouse. Lastly, I guess I'll just say how much I like the new Starry Night look they did for this mouse. I think it looks so nice, and it matches with pretty much any type of setup too. For me and my hand size, this is a god tier shape for my grip style, and I'll be continuing to use this mouse for the foreseeable future, along with my 2 other main mice. If I left anything out that you wish to know about, just, ask me down in the comments, and if you watched the video all the way through, thank you so much. And with that being said, I'll see you in the next one.